So I am Amy Sharavani, and today this is the presentation day of the paper number 107, and I am dealing with the concept of Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis in 1984 novel written by George Orwell. I would like to start my presentation with the Benjamin Le quote. The world is presented in a kaleidoscopic flux of impressions which has to be organized in our minds, and this means largely by the linguistic systems in our minds. So here this concept of Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis is concentrate on the kaleidoscopic flux. Kaleidoscopic flux is something which is they wanted to know that how the thing is structured in our mind, how we have adopted the particular patterns, the shapes and structure in our mind. So these are my information. And when we see this theory of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, these are the factors which are working in this theory, like language, geography, thoughts, culture, folk tradition, literature, religious practices and architecture. When we go to the theory or history of this theory, we can find that in the 19th century of the thinkers, there were the two thinkers who first think or first express this theory, uh, and then in the American anthropology area, there were the two members, the Boas and Edward Sapir. They expressed this theory in around the 19th century, uh, and then they were talking about this particular theory. Uh, Benjamin Wolf is a student of Edward Sapir, and then he went in the deep his teacher's theory. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is focusing on linguistic basis of this theory, that how is semantic structure is working, the theory of linguistic relativity, linguistic determinism, and Whorfian hypothesis and Whorfianism. These are the names of this theory people are using time and again. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis was thought in courses through the earlier 1970s and had become widely accepted as truth. But then it fell out of favor by the 1990s. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis was left for dead. Authors Steven Pinker wrote The Cognitive Revolution in Psychology, which made the study of pure thought possible, and a number of studies showing major effect of language on concepts appeared to kill the concept in the 1990s. As I said that in late 18th century thinkers has came already to this theory, but when the Sapir get existed this theory in the 19th century, and but recently it has been resurrected, and neo-Whorfianism is now an active research topic in psycholinguistic is a term that psychological process that make it possible for humans to master and use language. Psycholinguistic conduct research on speech development and language development, and how individuals of all ages comprehend the produced language. And we have seen in the novel that it is we can say that it is very special, the role of language played by George Orwell in this novel 1984, that how psycholinguistic factor is working in the novel, and to we can get this by this factor the theory has applied in this novel. Here I put the view or the thought of the Sapir. Human beings do not live in the objective world alone, nor alone in the world of social activity or ordinarily understood, but are very much at the mercy of the particular language which has become the medium of expression of their society. So Zapier goes with the idea of that we as a human being we are not able to live in the society without language, and the Worf is going in same path, but little bit he was going with the some another aspect rather than social aspect. It is quite an illusion to imagine that one adjusts to reality essentially without the use of language, and that language is merely an incidental means of solving specific problems of communication or reflection. So he is saying like that we if language is not there, we cannot communicate or we cannot solve our specific problems related to language. We cannot solve without the language. So he has put the language aspect of language as very majorly played a role. The fact of the matter is that the real world is to a large extent unconsciously built upon the language habits of the group. No two languages are ever sufficiently similar to be considered as representing the same social reality. The worlds in which different societies are live distinct worlds, not merely the same world with different levels attached. We see and hear the existence very largely as we do because the language habits of our community predispose certain choices of interpretation. This theory mainly goes with the idea of how two languages existed, and how the concept and the conflict of two languages is happen. That's what Sapir is telling. And now it is the thought of war. uh, we decide nature along lines laid down by our native languages. The categories and types that we isolate from the world of phenomena we do not find there because they stare every observer in the face. On the contrary, the world is presented in a kaleidoscopic flux of impressions which has to be organized in our minds, and this means largely by the linguistic system in our minds. So whenever a person is examined by the incidents, examined by the various kind of things whichever happened to that person, that things or that incidents can be examined by the language linguistic system which the person has used. And here I want to add something is that semantic how the semantic factor is playing the role. That here the semantic psychology, the study of how meaning is stored in the mind. That when psychologically we want to know the person is how the thing or the incident stored in the particular that person minds. So it is like a very vital role in this theory of semantic psychology, largely because we are parties to an agreement to organize it in this way, an agreement that holds throughout our speech community and is codified in the patterns of our language. Like in kaleidoscope we see that there are two lines and so many colors, so many shapes, very complexity is there. So in the same way, the flux is happen in our mind, and that's called kaleidoscopic flux. The agreement is, of course, the implicit and unstated one, but its terms are absolutely obligatory. We cannot talk at all except by subscribing to the organization and classification of data with the agreement degrees. There are the situations are not static in our mind, like kaleidoscopic situation cannot stuck in one situation. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associated principles, that is linguistic determinism and linguistic relativity. There are so many other core of this theory, but I have taken these both as Novel has thrown the light upon these two aspects. That linguistic determinism, language may determine our thinking patterns, the way we view and think about the world. Linguistic determinism is called strong determinism. When we compare both the principles to each other, we think that linguistic determinism is strong than linguistic relativity. What is linguistic relativity? The less similar the language is, more diverse the conceptualization of the world. Different languages view the world differently. So determinism is something how our perspective to the look at the world, and how we think by that perspective to look at the world. So these are, I have taken original lines from the novel, that which can reflect the, we can study this by the using this theory particular. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. This is in chapter 1 of novel. So how it contradicting, and how it leave the impact in our mind when we read that war is peace, freedom is slavery. It is very going in the paradoxical way. And then another is, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. So this is the how party was wanted, how party wanted to rule in the that particular country, and how the propaganda of linguistic they use. In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of that position demanded it, not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. Another one I have taken is that, and when memory failed, the written records were falsified. How the Ministry of Truth was working, we can say that they used the when they give a title to ministry, they use the factor of linguistic, and whenever we see that title, they work very contradictorily, and the title is seemed in a very nice way. It is entirely illogical. For instance, the Ministry of Peace is in charge of waging war, the Ministry of Love is in charge of political torture, and the Ministry of Truth is in charge of doctoring history books to reflect the party's ideology. This I have said before it. So, there are other original quotes I have taken. Don't you see that the world aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought. This quote, this sentence, when we see the O'Brien talks to our narrator, and then he uses this kind of language or this kind of linguistic pattern to convince him. If they could make me stop loving you, that would be the real betrayal. She thought it ever. They can't do that. They can make you say anything, but they can't make you believe it. They can't get inside you. This is the dialogue from the Julia is telling to the our narrator, and how they were a strong static position in their mind of whatever they want to do or whatever they think. But at the end of the novel, we see that everything gets changed. And perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick, that you just said it to make them stop and didn't really mean it. But that isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You think there is no other way of saving yourself. You are quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't give a damn what they suffer. You all care about is yourself. We watch in the movie that when they came, both they came to the 101 room, and political parties were very torturing, very in a very cruel way, both of them, and how they were speaking them by themselves. Very changed idea. We do not destroy the heretic because we resist us. He resists us. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshape him. This is O'Brien's dialogue when the narrator get out of the 101, and how party was convincing him to believe whatever party is saying. So this is my work cited.
Okay, Amisha, you have mentioned in your presentation the factors of hypothesis. What could be how can you connect the geography as the factor of hypothesis?
Yes, there are so many factors which are working in this theory. Geography is working like how the country or the particular place is where situated, and geography is playing role because when we see that various places or various countries, various regions, we see that linguistic depend on this geography as in what place they have situated in this geography.
Anisha, my question is how SHP connect with 1984? The concept that we
Yeah, the answer can be my whole presentation because I have connected this 1984 to Sapir hypothesis. In short, I can say that 1984, George Orwell has portrayed this entire people's mind, people's psychology, and how the language they have used. And by that language, if we want to study, then this theory can be help us very a lot. So, like in that way, these both are connected. And yes, geography. One more thing I want to add it that. Ge- uh, depend on geography because language are we have seen in Gujarati બાર ગાવે બોલી બદલાય તો like language are different, but the use of language, the use of psycholinguistics are major play in this theory.